thought you were doing everything. Good morning, members of the Committee of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport Affairs, members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, those following via social media, and members of the media. Welcome to this meeting of the Committee of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport Affairs, number 3 of today, Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. A special welcome is extended to the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports, Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, and the Minister of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, Minister Omar Atley, and their respective support staff. We have established a quorum of 7 members. Please let us stand for a moment of silence. I have received notice of absence from the following members: MP Lutmila De Weaver. Are there any notifications this morning? MP Duncan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Good morning to you. Good morning to my fellow colleagues in Parliament. Good morning to the Ministers of Education and Public Health and their support staff. Good morning to the people of St. Martin tuned in. Madam Chair, I just wanted to, through you, give the Minister of Education a heads up, also to the Minister of Romou, that an urgent public meeting has been requested in regard to the destruction of the ruins at Diamond Estate. It is extremely ironic, Madam Chair, that right now in the second chamber in the Netherlands, a debate is happening on slavery past and the apology of Prime Minister Rutte. And here on St. Martin, the community is feeling the effects of the continuous destruction of our heritage. I don't know when we are going to pick culture over capitalism in this country, Madam Chair. But I just wanted to put that out there, and I look forward to this urgent meeting when the time comes. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Duncan. MP Heilige Martin, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning to the ministers and their support staff. Good morning to those listening and viewing online. And good morning to my fellow colleagues. Madam Chair Lady, I would like to take this opportunity to applaud the Minister of TIAT for inviting the Minister of Romou to take a first-hand look at the extent of the cleanup and repairs in the Philipsburg area. The Minister of TIAT stated in a press release that the safety in Philipsburg is a significant concern, and it is therefore necessary to act quickly, which is why he is now pushing forward to get as much done to protect everyone who enters the Philipsburg area. I guess that's why I see the Checkmate security patrolling the boardwalk in the golf carts lately. But Madam Chair Lady, I also want to make mention of the broader significant concern that I have. I have never, in my 46 years in St. Martin, witnessed such filth around the country. It is filthy everywhere. I urge the Minister of Romou to dedicate at least 1 hour a week to drive around first thing in the morning and assess the country, because it is a responsibility of the Minister of Romou, who has to supervise the task and responsibility of the garbage haulers. I take a walk every morning from the government building to Parliament building. And Madam Chair Lady, it is an eyesore to see the garbage piled up in those cement plant pots. The garbage and the dead animals all over the place. The last time, according to some of the vendors, that area was cleaned was in November. But I can't in good conscience only blame the Minister of Romou. The filth, regarding the filth surrounding the island. We all have to do better, and we're all responsible for that. We need to take pride in keeping St. Martin clean, and remember back in the days when they used to have this Keep St. Martin Clean campaign. It was prominent on the radio stations. You see it all on the billboards. We need to go back to that. So remember, St. Martin. Together we can take pride and don't throw it outside. So I thank you, Madam Chair Lady, for the opportunity, and I would leave it at that and hope that the minister would at least take my suggestion in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Heilige Martin. Are there any further notifications? No? Well, I would just like to take this opportunity on a more happy note to wish my sister, Nadia Romou, a very happy birthday. Moving over now to the agenda point. Parliament received a letter from my person on October 19, 2021, IS 146, 2021-2022, with the request that a meeting of this committee be convened with the Minister of VSA and the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports to discuss the above-mentioned agenda point. Additionally, on May 10, 2022, Parliament received a copy of Teen Times Period Poverty Legislation Proposal, IS 877, 2021-2022. These documents can be found on the P drive of Parliament. Hence today, this meeting. It is important to note that the legislation proposal by Teen Times is actually a document that describes the idea of the legislation to be drafted. So it's not an actual legislation, it is a document that describes the idea of the legislation to be drafted. At this time, I would like to elucidate further on my request for this meeting. In September of 2021, the Teen Times submitted to me as Member of Parliament a proposal for the need of period poverty legislation, a move that I wholeheartedly commend. As you may know, due to this, we have also seen sanitary napkins being placed in the basket of goods. I must say prior to this, the topic of period poverty did have my attention as it has been a debate, maybe one that we don't have enough for some time now to discuss. This topic is not a local one, it is a global one. To give context to the word period poverty for women can be simply going to the supermarket and having to actually choose whether you can buy food or a box of sanitary napkins. Period poverty is not being able to afford menstrual hygiene products. Mothers having to make a difficult decision to either feed their children or purchase sanitary napkins. Young girls not having access to these items and having to use rags, toilet paper, or even reuse pads. This is a reality and one that demands our attention. Just last year in August 2022, Scotland became the first country in the world to offer period products free for all through their Period Products Free Provision Bill. This bill also mandates that education providers ensure that period products are obtainable free of charge for students. In the US, 60 state laws and 2 federal laws have been enacted. The laws include eliminating the menstrual tax, making menstrual products more accessible by requiring them in schools, prisons, correctional facilities, and shelters, and addressing the safety of these products by requiring ingredient disclosure. The reason I'm giving these statistics is because if these big countries can do it for their population, we sure can for our 16 square miles as well. I believe the first focus in tackling period poverty and promoting period equity is to start within our schools. We need to ensure our young girls have access and in a manner that it is not shameful for them. Then we can look at our community and study which touch points in our community can assist with leveling period poverty. In certain countries, businesses offer access to sanitary napkins free of charge in their establishments as a gesture of goodwill. We can look at our community help desks, women desk, and other organizations that can band together and ensure that the days of mothers and women having to choose between basic necessities and their basic human rights are no longer. Based on this, I would like to pose some questions, which I will do after my colleagues pose their questions concerning this particular issue on St. Martin. I will now give the floor to the ministers for their introductory remarks and presentation. To which minister can I give the floor first? Minister Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. This is a very serious topic. Blessed day to the members of Parliament, the viewing and listening public. Without further ado, I'd like to dive into the presentation. So the presentation today, we speak about period poverty. What is period poverty? Period poverty refers to the social, economic, political, cultural barriers to menstrual product, education, and sanitization. It pertains to lack of access to sanitary products due to financial constraint, and is often defined as the struggle many low-income women and girls face while trying to afford menstrual products. We move to the Teen Times overview. Teen Times support the global movement to provide free access to feminine hygiene products in schools and other public places. They propose that Parliament passes legislation to allow anyone who needs period and sanitary products to get them free of charge in public spaces. Here are some facts and what we know. There is no current data locally on the subject matter, and therefore a study is currently being carried out. What we know is that there are over 22,000 females registered on the island of St. Martin who are of menstruating age, which is 10 to 60 normally. Average cycle duration is 3 to 7 days, most women 5 days. It is recommended that you change pads 3 to 4 hours, every 3 to 4 hours, therefore averaging 5 to 6 menstrual pads a day. Period poverty can be exacerbated for families in low-income brackets. Period poverty is also associated with health issues, including depression, urinary tract infection, and actions such as substituting menstrual products with toilet papers, as you mentioned, Madam Chair, socks, and other stretching products. I move to the cost, which is a major issue. Here we have a local supplier where we compare the costs. We have another local supplier, and as you can see, we have costs from 25, 18, 42, supplier 2 locally, 30, 29, 27, 18, and online prices, you can see is significantly lower online. However, this issue was taken up, although in my capacity as Minister of TIAT, but I'm happy to say as well that these items were placed in the basket of goods and the prices now align with the ones online. So this is a step in the right direction of making these sanitary products more affordable. We move to regional and international interventions. Surveys is done around the world to assess period poverty. In Barbados, for example, they eliminated the payment of the VAT for menstrual products. This is a tax, but we don't have that. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they started a pilot project for 1 month to supply sanitary products to women and girls in impoverished communities. This was done for 1 month. It was then put on hold where further assessment will be done, and cost is also a contributing factor that everyone is looking into. The campaign, Safe Cycle, and Know Your Flow. Placing sanitary napkins in public areas, this is also something, as you mentioned, is being done around the world, and even in some places here in St. Martin. Promoting alternative economical products, such as menstrual cups, which is reusable, and menstrual panties. VSR's vision. Research is needed to assess the current situation on St. Martin. The findings of the study will decide whether the existing program need to be adjusted or strengthened, and whether legislation is required to address the problem. As we know, and I mentioned before, over 22,000 women are registered on St. Martin are in the age for their menstrual cycle, which is 10 to 60 average. We need to know, for instance, how many are affected by period poverty. This is unknown. It is a problem. Is it a problem in schools? Are young people missing schools because they don't have access to menstrual or hygiene products? Which legislation affects period poverty? Is there a big problem enough to change the legislation or draft new legislation? Now, we know that there is an issue, but these are questions that, standard questions that you'd use before drafting legislation. An awareness campaign in collaboration with the Ministry of Education to promote and break the stigma addressing health and social aspects of period poverty. This is also something that a lot of our young girls are afraid to speak about because they don't want to seem impoverished. Collaborate with Girl Power, Real Talk programs, awareness about more sustainable menstrual products, as stated, such as menstrual cup and sanitary panties, which are reusable. Pilot projects with wholesale distributors to provide sanitary pads to schools. The ministry has already started to reach out to wholesalers to have this discussion, and we will continue to do so. That is the end, Madam Chair. I look forward to any questions from the members of Parliament.
Thank you, Minister. I look to the floor of Parliament. MP Westcott Williams, you have the floor. Minister of Education, would you like to make your presentation before we move into the questions from the parliamentarians? Okay. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Lady, and good morning to the members of the Council of Ministers and to my colleague minister and support staff on both sides, and good morning to the people of St. Martin. The topic of period poverty indeed was brought to my attention, and I immediately asked the Department of Education to have a discussion with the school boards to find out if there is a need to increase subsidy immediately in order to, at the same time, make the products available for those students that would need it. I did this because I also recognize the seriousness of the topic and that it indeed can have students who could not afford or catch or be caught off guard with their menstrual cycle while they are at school. I have looked at the response from the school, and it must be noted that the topic has never been presented by boards as a point of concern to address. And during the discussions on May 17, 2022, the vast majority of the school boards indicated that the matter is not a major concern as resources are available and are provided when necessary. The MAC School Board and the Seventh-day Adventist School Board explicitly expressed this, and the sentiments were accepted by all but two school boards. The two school boards that requested additional time to provide a response were the FAVE and the SWOBA school boards. Both school boards were given until the end of May 31st, 2022 to provide their feedback. The FAVE school indicated that the matter of period poverty is not a major concern in their schools, as provisions are made available for students who require such, and the SWOBA School Board provided no further information regarding the matter. The SP SCOBA School Board also indicated that provisions are available for students who require such. However, this has been facilitated by the responsible coordinator and had not been brought to the attention of school management. Madam Chair, I would like to indicate that as Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, I am open to support any legislation, if it is needed, in order to make funds available in schools to the school boards, if needed, in order to have these products available in schools. I have read the proposal of Teen Times and the making available of products, if legislation, again, is deemed necessary, or a policy or a MOU, the Minister of Education is on board. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I now give the floor to MP Westcott Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and good morning to, firstly, our two ministers and their entourage, then a good morning to my colleagues, a good morning to all tuned in to this meeting of this Committee of Parliament. Madam Chair Lady, allow me to start off by highlighting again something that was so telling. And while we can talk about research and further research and necessity or not, what I want to refer to beforehand is the at least 2 slides presented to members of Parliament and others during a session. And these slides regard a survey carried out by the Dutch Red Cross. And 2 of the questions that really stuck with me were the following questions. Do you have enough food for you and your family? St. Martin stands out where the percentage of none and not enough is concerned. The graphs were presented. Again, I want to repeat, St. Martin stood out where the answer was to the question, do you have enough food for you and your family? None or not enough. The next picture was the question, to what extent does your income allow your household to cover its basic needs, rent, health, education, food, and water? Again, St. Martin, where it pertained to not at all and mostly not, stands out amongst the other Caribbean countries and Caribbean or Dutch Caribbean islands. So, Madam Chair Lady, while yes, like yourself and other colleagues, the ministers and their staff did quite some research into the topic, so have I. And I don't believe that this being considered, that's what it is, a global problem, that St. Martin is excluded from that category of it being a global problem. So I believe, and I'll highlight it further, that Teen Times, which since 2021 has started with this project, in fact, a pilot project, and is intending to enlarge in that project, I don't think that they have been pushing this matter just for so. So, Madam Chair Lady, again, we could debate for another day the issue of period poverty. We could all pull up different reports. The United Nations Population Fund commissioned a report, and all of that information is available, and we can pull it up. However, I do not believe what is considered epidemic in some countries and has also been signaled to be a problem here on St. Martin is the use of e-cigarettes in our schools. Minister, you would recall that early last year, I ask about this topic. One, the subsequent answer when you return, and now I'm directing myself through the chair lady to the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports. The answer subsequently to that was, like we get today, a presentation on the issue. And I need to tell these ministers here and the other ministers, when I bring up an issue, unless I ask questions about it, I have pretty much properly researched the issue. With this I mean, don't bother to come and present me the information on the issue. I want to know about the issue on St. Martin. So just let me put that out there. So coming back to that particular point, then the minister came and he presented, you know, the information, the Google, the internet information, etc. And then I was told by the minister, when querying again on the topic, that the ministry was going to contact Turning Point, had contacted them, as far as I remember, was going to reestablish or repeat that contact, etc., etc. So the answer that I'm looking for in that regard is, what has that contact yielded, is my question where this matter is concerned. As far as not only from Teen Time reports, as far as I know, I hear, I listen, that too is a problem. So, Madam Chair Lady, I decided, I say, no, we're going to have to, at some point, kind of stop the talking, since we know that it is a problem. It's a global problem. Different countries look at different ways of solving the problem. I'm not saying that St. Martin's problem is as big as it is everywhere else. We're looking at it especially from a socio-economic perspective. There are countries who have to deal with it from a cultural perspective, and the taboos, etc., that go with it. So, Madam Chair Lady, I would read to you, or through you rather, a proposal that I submitted this morning to Parliament regarding this issue. And it reads as follows. Proposal reference period poverty proposal of today to the Parliament. St. Martin's Youth Organization Teen Times in 2021 launched their pilot project, Period Poverty, and has since been promoting awareness and action, especially in schools and government corridors. Period poverty is a phenomenon that manifests itself in many, if not all countries, as it is a socioeconomic issue, and in some parts even cultural, with severity differing from country to country. In many countries, menstruation is a taboo subject and many stigmas exist, creating a double whammy for women and girls. Global organizations, along with local stakeholders, recognizing this, have stepped up to devise plans to combat this form of poverty affecting women and girls. A quote from the United Nations Population Fund is, "Shame, stigma, and misinformation surrounding menstruation are contributing to serious human rights concerns for women and girls," end of quote. Now that is me, I am convinced that Teen Times is abreast of the severity of this issue for our country, thus their thrust to get it on the political agenda. One thing is certain, and that is that overall poverty and standards of living contribute to the non-accessibility of menstrual products. However, as rightfully pointed out by Teen Times, there is more to period poverty than the affordability of menstrual products. It is therefore recommended that education and awareness be included in whatever, between quotations, package is devised to combat period poverty, especially in our schools. Menstrual health is part of the reproductive health of a nation, and that, along with the physical health and mental health of the entire population, are a constitutional responsibility of the government of our country. In fact, these health topics are not only a constitutionally enshrined right, but also a human right to be afforded to all citizens. Globally, the SDGs, and in particular, no poverty, number 1, good health and well-being, number 3, and gender equality, number 5, call for government to take and assess action to measure progress in these areas of human rights. For the largest part, our school system is subsidized by the government, and it thus should not be a huge issue for a matter such as this to be agreed upon across the board, benefiting those young women and offering a low threshold in a dignified manner to the access of the products. A quick outcome could be a covenant between all relevant institutions. However, again, in my view, I believe that our current legislation offers the basis for the government to take the lead in this endeavor. And I propose that this ECYS Committee of Parliament on January the 25th, in the presence of the Minister of Public Health, takes the initial position that the government should rapidly make use of the Public Health Ordinance of St. Martin and to decree via national decree containing general measures, a so-called Landsbesluit HAM, on the basis of paragraph 2, article 4, which speaks to vulnerable groups of the law, how it will tackle the period poverty problem on our island. A sample text that could be included in this Landsbesluit HAM, the national decree containing general measures, could, for example, be a sample text, mind you, all schools serving students in any grade from X through grade X shall provide menstrual/hygiene products in the restrooms of such school building or buildings. Such products shall be provided at no charge to students. And secondly, I propose that the government assists with a teen time pilot project by making available in our secondary schools, for starters, menstrual products, which pilot could also serve to fine-tune the general decree, LB-HAM, if necessary. End of my proposal that should I ask that it be shared with my colleagues as well as with the government departments. And I thank you, Madam Chairlady.
Thank you, MP Westcott. I now give the floor to MP Gums.
Thank you, Madam Chairlady, and good morning to my colleagues, yourself, Rifir, the ministers joining us and their support staff. I will just keep it short. I believe MP Westcott has said many of my sentiments on this particular topic. So I just have 2 questions. The first for Minister Samuel, through you, Madam Chair. Have you or your staff reached out to Teen Times to determine if schools have approached them to join the program that they have running? And have we also considered that, especially in the religious school boards, there may be a deeper stigma where the truth of the matter may not actually be shared? And I say that as an alumni of one of our religious schools. Minister Otley, through you, Madam Chair, I applaud the inclusion of menstrual products in the basket of goods, but I wanted some elaboration on the type of products. Most women will know that you have your regular, everyday available sanitary napkins, tampons, etc., but organic versions of those products that are based on cotton materials, they do not contain the chemicals that can actually make periods worse. A lot of the issues that you see with women and their reproductive health later on in life, from endometriosis to PCOS, etc., is brought on by the chlorine and the chemicals found in those products. So I think as we look to preventive care in a sense, maybe those, if you could elaborate if those are already included in the basket of goods. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Gums. MP Duncan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the ministers for their presentation. I would also like to give kudos to the Minister of Health for adding sanitary napkins to the basket of goods. This is extremely important and a really, really good first step. Madam Chair, through you, I would like to ask the Minister of Education whether he had or surveyed the public schools. I know we have one public high school, however, we have public elementary schools, and we know, those of us who do know, that young girls are getting their menstruation very early. So I wanted to know if the public schools were approached and what was the sentiment there, because we would believe that there are our most vulnerable groups. They're present there. And so I wanted to know what the idea from the public schools may have been in regards to this particular topic. And I also, Madam Chair, just want to say that access is what is most important. So whether government can just act as a liaison, as was mentioned, between schools and wholesalers, perhaps maybe private companies, to ensure that girls have access. I would hope that someday vending machines are available. But I think this is an important first step. And again, it is important to listen to our young people and see which ways in which we can assist. Maybe we cannot deliver everything that they would want, but a dialogue is extremely important, and follow-up is too. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Duncan. MP Westcott, you have the floor.
Thank you once again, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, I want to continue on the topic of our public health law, and I would like to know the minister's sentiments on identifying very specifically some of the target groups that are mentioned under the paragraph of vulnerable groups in that law currently. Many countries, all countries have something that would represent a public health law, public health ordinance in our case. And what you see is where we have put all the vulnerable groups together in the paragraph that I mentioned earlier. Many countries would highlight the category of women as part of that group. So you would have like a paragraph or something of that nature for women, for the youth, and for elderly. And I want to know, of course, the minister and their staffs would need a chance to review what article exactly I'm referring to, but I would like to know the thoughts. And in fact, it's more than know the thoughts. It's a request to consider highlighting in that law those groups and any other one that the ministers feel need specific attention. Madam Chair, for the information of yourself and my colleagues, the particular paragraph that I'm referring to lumps everybody considered vulnerable under one. And I think we should start splitting that up in order to focus. We focus on the women's health issue specifically. We focus on youth health specifically. We focus on the elderly specifically. Our law grants us the opportunity. I am not asking to add to the law. It's already in the law. I would just like to see it more specific for the different categories and groups. So I just wanted to add that as well, because then government's focus in these type of matters could be on the specific topic itself and the specific target group themselves. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. I now give the floor to MP Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady. And good morning to my colleagues, honorable ministers, and their support staff, and everyone who's watching and listening by whichever means. Madam Chair, I am confused. And to the Honorable Minister of VSA, Minister Utley, I have 2 daughters, and before the age of 10, they both already, yeah, yeah. And you can imagine how I felt. I went sort of like, what? Already? No, no, you were supposed, no, no, can't be. No. Run by auntie, run by mother, run by everybody. Listen, come and, you know, do the talk and the business and just tell me what I need to get and all kind of stuff. The reason why I'm saying that is because it's not, and you know, I have to applaud Teen Times because it's not a cheap endeavor dealing with that. It's not cheap. We as boys, we are ruffians, we don't need that stuff. But I have to dovetail on what my colleague make mention and also what MP Westcott spoke about, which is access. Because I heard you said something earlier that you're in discussions with the wholesalers in relations to the school. What if they say no? How is the schools going to get the products that is needed for the girls? What if the wholesalers decide, no, that's not our business. We don't have no issue or no cause doing with that. Providing or having a discussion. I'm taken aback that the government is saying that they are having a discussion with the wholesalers. Why must the government go and have a discussion with the wholesalers to provide sanitary napkins to the schools? Why? And if the wholesalers say no, that's not our responsibility. No, we don't want to have that. No, then what? There is still no access to it in the schools. Because what I'm seeing here is sort of passing the buck. That's what I'm seeing. It may be no, or we have a difference of opinion or say it differently. But again, it comes back to one word: access. Those who are the most vulnerable that need this. How do they get it in the schools where they're at majority of the time in the day? I don't think the government should be having a discussion with wholesalers, period. The government should have a dialogue with the school, provide the funding, and leave the schools go and deal with it themselves. Why have a discussion with wholesalers? Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Emmanuel. Are there any other MPs who wish to have the floor? If not, I will now pose my questions to the ministers, and I will provide you with the questions after the meeting as well. As you know, this is a topic that is very, very dear to me, and that is why I'm extremely happy that finally we can have the discussion here on the floor of Parliament. However, note that there are members of the Teen Times who are watching, and while the ministers were giving their presentation, I was receiving messages. And one of the messages basically went like this: the Teen Times have received requests from 2 elementary schools so far, Genevieve the Weaver School and Orania School, because they have challenges with this issue. The schools contacted the Teen Times to find out how they can become a part of the pilot project as well. And something that I said in my elucidation as to why I thought it very important to continue with this topic and to bring it forth is that all young girls, for the majority anyway, this is seen as a stigma. So it is not just a 1-2 thing where you're going to go and ask for sanitary napkins. If it is provided for them at their discretion where they can go and obtain it, then it, of course, eliminates that issue for them, that taboo. So without further ado, I will continue with my questions. The minister already in his presentation showed that basically the Ministry of Education does not really have data on access to the following. So my questions are as follows. Absenteeism amongst girls in schools related to their monthly cycle. how can you go about obtaining that information? Average days of school missed by young girls as a result of their menstrual cycle as well. And the accessibility of sanitary napkins to the girls in schools, and where can the girls access these sanitary napkins in school if need be? If schools are indeed providing these products, as you mentioned in your presentation, to our female students, how is it being carried out? Can we ensure that every school is providing these products to our female students? When a student requests, how much is actually given? We need to ensure that our students that need these products, we need to ensure that our students who need these products actually have the possibility to get them and that it's readily available for them. Simply saying that schools provide these products for me is not enough. Are there currently any policies or any policy being worked on to promote equal access to menstrual hygiene products in schools? Have there been any projects in the past that delved into this subject matter, especially in our schools? When it comes to funding, can the minister suggest ways that the provision of menstrual hygiene products in schools can be covered in the subsidy provision for subsidized schools, and how it can be incorporated in the Department of Public Education budget for public schools? Because again, as you see, 2 schools of public education have indicated that this is a problem for them. I'm keen on getting more information on how our students are educated on female menstruation, and if there are any activities or initiatives in the school to break the stigma and the shame that our girls may feel for something that is absolutely part of human nature and an important part as well. How is this being tackled in our curriculum? Minister of VSA mentioned the Real Talk and the Girl Power programs, to which I can envision an extra push is an extra push. But we need to ensure that there is something structural. Therefore, our curriculum can be a tool to end the stigma. These questions now are posed to the Minister of VSA. How many active community help desks are there on the island, and what are the operation hours that they are accessible to the public? Are community requests submitted at the help desk recorded, and have there been any requests for the need of feminine menstrual products at these facilities? Are feminine hygiene products accessible for free at the functioning community help desk on the island? Can the community help desk be a possible source point for women in the community to access free menstrual products if needed? Based on the discussion, how can you envision an organization like Women's Desk or any other organization that are funded, subsidized, or working along with VSA contribute to achievement of period equity? Do you have an estimation of when the research that your ministry is carrying out on the topic will be finalized? And Minister, you mentioned collaborating with Real Talk and Girl Power as possible means to assist with the educating and destigmatizing the topic. Can you give some insight on what the ideas are on collaborating with these programs and by when you see this coming to fruition? And those are my questions. Ministers, I look to you to see if you need any extra time, or would you suggest we adjourn for 2 minutes to have this discussion? Meeting adjourned for 2 minutes. I have consulted with the ministers, and the ministers have agreed that they would return, or they can return in our next meeting week, which is in 2 weeks' time. I now look to the floor, and I would like to know if the ministers would like to have any remarks before we adjourn this meeting. Minister of ASA, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the members of Parliament. MP Gums, the presentation will be sent to you and everyone, all the members of Parliament. And on page 6 of the slide, it specifies the products in the basket of goods. MP Westcott, we have reviewed the legislation you spoke about. The lump is in 4.1, but in 4.2, it specifies the groups that are vulnerable. So if there's any more added details, I look forward to hearing. You can propose the amendment or whatever. We would move forward. MP Christopher Emmanuel, I understand your concerns or what you're saying, but one thing I don't do, not me, pass no buck. I don't pass the buck. Everything refers to has a fund or a budget. When I speak to wholesalers, is to acquire the budget to do so, because the cost to fund any school, every school, will amount to a significant amount that will require multiple quotations. So I'm not passing the buck. I'm actually doing my research in a responsible manner and discussing with the wholesalers to get the best price. So if the wholesalers decide, no, it's not that it won't happen, we just would have to pay the regular cost. So I'm not passing no buck. MP Romou, I thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to presenting the answers to you and the members of Parliament in more details in the next meeting week.
Thank you, Minister of ASA. Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to be able to make some closing remarks. First of all, I would like to thank my colleague for sharing this topic and the support staff on both sides, and also those who we don't see, but they are behind the scenes, making sure that we are prepared for these meetings. It is important to understand that the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports makes subsidy available to the subsidized schools, school boards, in order to take care of, let us say, whatever expenses that are there. And the topic on period poverty was sent to the school boards because if there is a need to have maybe a higher subsidy amount or additional subsidy in order to take care of the cost of providing the products, then we will get the direct answer from the school boards that either they would ask for a structural subsidy increase or an incidental subsidy if needed. And that is why immediately when I heard about the topic, I said, let us talk to the school boards to make sure that they can afford to make the products available. When we look at the public schools, I can say with confidence that from the time I sat, I all informed the public schools that whatever they need, please let us know at the ministry, and we will provide whatever the schools need. So when it comes to toilet paper, napkins, dishwashing liquids, or disinfectant, copy paper, toner, whatever, I have done my best to inform the schools over and over. If you need something, please make the request. If a school goes outside of that and have a conversation with any other group in regarding to something, that can also happen. But that does not mean that the school does not know that they would have to send a request to the ministry in order to be taken care of. So with that being said, again, I would like to repeat that as Minister of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports, if a law, a legislation, a MOU, a policy, whatever is needed in order to support this request, Minister ECYS is on board. And I would like to also thank my colleague, Minister VSM, Minister Otley, for his support also on this topic. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I see that MP Westcott would like to have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Two short points is firstly, the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport, can he provide us with an update on the ministry's efforts with respect to the use of e-cigarettes in the schools and how this can be addressed? One, and I would propose that the proposal that I just read, which is officially at Parliament, be forwarded to government post his, so that we can get government's reaction to the proposal when they come back to answer the questions in this committee meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. Before we adjourn this meeting, I would like to ask the committee members who are present if you are in support of MP Westcott's proposal, what she just said in terms of providing such with government. You are? Okay. Thank you. So I would like to indicate that the proposal brought forward by MP Westcott Williams will be sent to the government for your feedback on this proposal. I would now like to thank everyone who is present today at this meeting. I want to thank the ministers for their presentations, and we look forward to continuing and receiving the answers to the questions posed as we continue with this meeting. This meeting is now adjourned.